Yes. Yeah.
But like the comparison, like with me and some of the other guys.
So that'd be something neat to see, the Harris Centers
The Pirates playing in Williams.
Welcome to the Knowledge Sports Podcast, episode 43, the home of sports talk for everyone. I'm David.
I'm Jason.
Welcome aboard. Episode 43. Wow. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Really not that much to deviate on tonight's episode. As we usually find a way.
No, I'm sure we'll deviate at some point because that's what.
Yeah, but normally we always have some deviate like right at the beginning.
I mean, if you want one, I'm currently outscoring everyone in my fantasy league but Jonathan, who I'm playing this week. So I think this is going to be a theme for the season where I put up really high points against everyone in the league until I play them.
Of course. That's how it always works. It's how you were with fantasy football.
What a mess. I haven't played. This is my first time doing fantasy baseball in over a decade, so
nice.
I'm a bit rusty.
Yeah, it's something different.
I mean, I prefer it over fantasy football, but it's when you haven't done it in a long time, it's hard to remember the scoring. I'll put it that way.
I bet it's always something, you got to go back like, wait a minute, what was that again? All right, into the first period here. We decided to do something that it's intriguing to see for when players and teams hit milestones. And what came to this one was when the Hershey Bears won their 3,000th game in franchise history, and only becoming the fifth hockey team to actually do that. Not just in, they're the first AHL team, but the NHL as well. Because the only ones in the NHL are the Montreal Canadiens, Boston Bruins, Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Detroit Red Wings. Go figure that 4 of them are the original 6.
That makes sense.
But then again, Chicago's not in there, and neither are the Rangers.
Well,
you would have thought
are what the Rangers are.
Yeah. I mean, you would have think at least the original 6 would be in there. So I just think that, that's just an interesting thing that Hershey, for how franchised they've been for the years they've been around, 3,000 wins to be at that category, pretty substantial.
It is, but I mean, this really goes back to the whole fact that, love it or hate it, the Hershey Bears are the AHL New York Yankees.
Yeah.
There's no other way to put it other than that's what they are. They're that good. And they're that good consistently.
Well, not just, that also helps when the Capitals, their farm team, with the way they draft, the way they manage their farms, manage the farm system. And not just, we're just going to throw people here and there. Because when the Capitals won the Cup in 2018, I think half the team was Hershey.
That's true. That is true, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. So when you see that, well, look at Colorado back in 2001, where Hershey was their farm team. I guarantee you there was maybe a handful of Bears on that one.
That makes sense, yeah.
See here, who was then? It was after, I think it was after Colorado. It was Tampa in 2004.
That was really brief, too. That was not.
Yeah, that was short. I think that was like a year or so.
If I had the information up in front of me, I could tell you.
Right? Yeah, isn't that how it always is? That I know was brief. I know Colorado was a good while because I went to a couple of preseason games at the old arena where you sit at the very top and you feel like you're going to fall over.
Literally the seats I had when I went to my first wrestling show.
What was funny is one game, my mom actually took me to a game, and I look over, I had to do a couple double takes to see who was actually sitting at a table in the one walkway. It was Ron Hextall.
Former Bear.
Exactly. And you would think somebody of, like, okay, not wanting to talk or anything. I talked to him for a good 15 minutes. He was just that down to earth. He was just that down to earth. He was a guy who's like, hey, how's it going? He was just that, that personable.
Yeah.
This is great to see. But yeah, another Bear. And that was during when Colorado was their affiliate at the time. Yeah, Tampa was a short one. Colorado was one of their good ones for a while. Now, why can I not find it unless you found it?
What did I find?
The affiliation?
Oh no, I was actually trying to look up their overall winning percentage from the beginning to now. But the one I found was not updated to match the 3,000th win. So I wasn't fairly convinced that the losses were also updated at that point in time. But I can probably get that information for you in just a second, since it was on the same webpage. So let's see here. Okay. So the Tampa Bay Lightning were from 2003 to 2004. They've been with the Capitals since 2005. Dare I say that might be their longest running affiliation, probably since maybe of all time.
Which one again was that one?
They've been with the Caps since 2005.
Also 77 to 84.
Well, I just meant long consistently.
Yeah. Because I looked on hockeydb.com.
That's where I'm at.
Oh, there you go. Great minds think alike. That's scary.
We've been friends long enough, so.
Definitely. That's yeah, the Tampa Bay one was 1 year, but it was a partial one. It was split between Colorado and Tampa.
Yeah, I think looking at their affiliation history, I think
Bruins
this is
were a good bit of them.
Yeah. You know what? It might be the Bruins. I don't know why they're listed staggered like that, though.
Yeah. Well, apparently in 57, 58, they were partial with the Red Wings. And then went back to Boston. Then was with Pittsburgh. Then the Sabres. Then the Capitals. Partial with the Nordiques. And then the Bruins
foreshadowing
again.
There.
What's that?
A little foreshadowing there with the Nordiques.
Oh.
Because the Nordiques would be the Avalanche. And then who they would later be the... Well, at this point, I don't see the Bears changing affiliation with the Caps anytime soon. So I think after they're going to break that 20-year streak of the Bruins, I'm going to say.
Oh yeah, they're gonna keep that affiliation for quite some time. They're definitely gonna keep that. But Hershey's definitely has its history, just like the original 6 teams. They've had their history where it's 8 regular season titles, 18 division championships, 23 conference championships, 11 Calder Cups. Need I say more of, like you said, the Yankees of the AHL?
They are. And dare I say, the Bears fans, the hardcore fans, are just as diehard as hardcore Yankees fans.
Yeah. 100% agree on that one. 100% agree. Now, I'm trying to figure this one out here because something has me thinking, why do I want to say Ron Hextall was a Nordique at one point, but not with the affiliation with Hershey? He was a Nordique in 92, 93, but he was a Bear 84 to 86. and then 89-90.
Hmm.
Okay, I just for some reason didn't know if I was thinking wrong, because I thought he entered the NHL later, or not later, earlier, like when the Nordiques were the Bears affiliates. But I was way off on that one. All right, so on to the next milestone. Ovechkin becoming third all-time in goals, passing Jaromir Jagr for that feat.
How far away is he from Gretzky at this point?
Oh, he's a distance. Yeah, he's still Gretzky's at 894. He's at, I want to say, 776.
Gotcha.
So he has some time before he gets to Wayne, which I think he can do it if he stays healthy, which is always the biggest thing, because he's not that far off of Gordie Howe, and Gordie Howe's at 801, so he's not that far off from him. So he definitely should hit that feat next season.
Yeah,
because he's currently 25 away from tying him, and he's probably going to get another 5 or 6 to between now and the end of the season, which is soon here.
Right.
But but the way he scores, he could go on a small drought and not score the rest of the season, or he could score 9 goals in 4 games. And I don't know how many times we've seen that. I have one here for LeBron James going to become second all-time in points and field goals made, I should say, behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. There's some basketball in there since we barely talk about basketball.
Yeah, there's a hand motion I can make right now too, and I'm not going to.
That part is what it is.
LeBron, the person, comes off as a very charitable, nice person. LeBron, the athlete, is a whole different thing. And he came in with a lot of hype, a lot of controversy, because he was the first 18-year-old to be drafted in the NBA. It was such a big deal. He was skipping college. He was going right to the NBA. And he's my age, but he's made a lot of decisions as a player that I think at the time he thought were really good ideas for him to progress as a player. And they've just kind of left a bad taste in a lot of fans' mouths.
Sort of like when he went to, or I should say, from Cleveland to Miami.
Him going from Cleveland to Miami isn't so much the problem with that whole thing. I think the fact that it was a special on ESPN where he sat there and was interviewed for an hour about why he chose to leave Cleveland to go to Miami. Like it was almost like the gall of him to do that. And then this year, there's all kinds of controversy with him and the Lakers where they were getting paid lots of money and people were expecting them to do certain things on the court and they just didn't perform because they just didn't want to. They'd lose a bunch of games that they could have won because they just didn't try or they didn't want to play, or some guys sat out because they didn't want to play. Like there's always something surrounding him as an athlete, and it takes away from how good he really can be, especially now because it seems like sometimes he just doesn't want to be.
Almost becomes lazy because of how good he is. It's one of those things where it goes straight to the head.
And everyone gets upset because the comparison is to Jordan, but Jordan played sick a lot.
Jordan played hard. And sick a lot, and still won games and still performed the way people expect him to, despite being sick.
Now, me and you are not basketball experts, and we've made that known a lot.
We're not
on this show. But as someone who is a sports fan and someone who knows sports history, and I was a big fan of the sport as a kid in the late 80s and up until the late 90s. I think I think Steph Curry could have hung with guys like Johnson and Bird and Jordan and Isaiah Thomas because he just has that work ethic. I don't know if LeBron could. And I'm not saying that as a knock to LeBron. I just think there was a mental toughness you had to have to play in that time frame because you're going against the best guys in the game on a regular basis. And it wasn't just the best guys. It was the best guys on the best teams. Because it wasn't just Larry Bird leading the Celtics. It was Larry Bird. It was Kevin McHale. It was Robert Parrish. It wasn't just Magic Johnson. It was Magic Johnson. It was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It was Vlade Divac. It was Jordan. It was Pippen. It was Horace Grant. Like, these guys' teams were more than just individual players who were making highlights.
They were teams.
They were teams.
You know, they were teams that meshed.
Talked shit all the time. I mean, Larry Bird is a meme machine because of all the crap he talked back in the day.
But he backed it up.
But one of my favorites is he walked out for the 3-point contest, looked at the other guys and said, which one of you is coming in second? And proceeded to sweep it.
Again, can back it up. I mean, yeah.
Sorry for the rant.
Well, no, it just feels like you said the mental toughness. If you look at basketball compared to other sports, well, let's just say it was just small injuries. And in basketball, you get a cramp that people are carried off, which I saw a picture of LeBron being carried off.
But I mean, here's the thing, though. Basketball is an entirely different animal physically than football, than baseball, than hockey. And all those sports require different things of the athlete to do physically.
Well, when a player dies on a hockey bench and then revived in the locker room and asked to come back, I'm not sure if that's crazy.
There was a pitcher in the 1920s who got zapped by lightning and finished the game. So,
well, I mean, Chris Pronger took a shot to the chest and his heart stopped.
But I'm not talking about that kind of toughness. I'm talking about the kind of conditioning you need. All 4 sports, you need different types of conditioning.
Yeah.
And, that's why when Michael transitioned from basketball to baseball and back, he had to completely change his workout routine, his nutrition, his stretching. Everything had to change to meet the sport he was playing. That's what I'm saying. So, whereas, yeah, it looks kind of weak that a cramp could lay someone out in basketball, but it's because of the muscles that are being used as compared to the muscles that are being used in another sport. So it's hard to judge. It's hard to judge them in that way because the injury that could take out a pitcher, a football player could just sneeze at.
Yeah, it's always a double-edged sword. You're always going to have those arguments about what sport's tougher, what sport can handle what.
I mean, I still go down and say hockey players are the toughest, but that's just because inertia.
They're crazy.
No, inertia. I would much rather get hit by a 400-pound lineman moving at 5 miles per hour than a guy in hockey skates that weighs 250 coming at me at 50. One's going to hurt a heck of a lot more, and it's because of the force coming with them.
Well, Chris Pronger, I mean, watching some of his highlights, I mean, I mentioned Chris Pronger because I was a fan when he played. I was a big fan of Chris Pronger, even when he played for St. Louis.
I was going to say, you liked him when he wasn't a Flyer.
Yeah, I mean, I watched him when he was with St. Louis. I watched Ray Bork. Here I am talking defensemen, and I played goalie and a forward. I've watched Ray Bork when he was a Bruin. And he was never a Flyer. But just seeing players of Pronger's caliber, or even Ovechkin, it does. It's like hitting a tree or a train. Either hitting a tree or a train hitting you. And then the last one we have for this milestone that we have here is, of course, who other than in football, Tom Brady, hitting 600 career touchdowns, and the current season that he was in, 624 total in his career. Now, the next active player on that list is Aaron Rodgers with 449.
I don't think Rodgers is hitting it, but
at
this point, we kind of know when it comes to some quarterback records, it's going to be Brady.
Anymore, yeah.
It is what it is.
I mean, he's just that good of a player. He's going to the Hall of Fame no matter what. Just like, I feel LeBron James, when his career is over, he's going to be going to the Hall of Fame. Same thing with Ovechkin. All go into the Hall when their career's up, just because of the numbers they're putting up and everything. So on that note, that'd be the end of the first period. We'll be right back.
For listeners of the Not Another Sports podcast, if you visit fansidea.com and use the code NASPOD at checkout, you will get 10% off your order. Fansidea.com is the place to go for custom-made jerseys, hoodies, shirts, and other gear. The perfect product, perfectly stitched, sublimation, and embroidery, 100% handmade and delivered on time. That's certainty, and it's their promise to you. Again, use the code NASPOD, NASPOD, at checkout for 10% off your order. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, you can see David in his spectacular Flyers-themed NASPOD jersey. The stitching on it is really good, and if you can see on the back, it has our logo hand-stitched on it as a patch. Nice work from them on David's jersey. I got the sublimated NASPOD jersey. It looks good. It's comfortable. I'm very happy with it, and we want to share that with you. Again, NASPOD at checkout for 10% off your order at fansidea.com.